Something that wouldn't end until I watched the most infamous nation fall and burn. Where we left off, SDO and Nordic had sieged and conquered the whole world. We were an unstoppable force. We helped each other at every turn, and we reaped the rewards of our success. But let's rewind a few days. During the final siege on the small Thracian fort, AS, one of Nordic's allies and my former enemy, DM'd me asking about a hypothetical siege. What nation were they talking about? Maybe just some smaller nation in South America or something. I think I saw a new nation form in Brazil. Yeah, that's probably it. That's what I wish happened, but the nation they wanted to siege was much more important. It was none other than their former rival. The nation they sieged last year and started the first war on the server. The nation who left their alliance to help take over the world. The nation that I was closest to, and the nation that I would destroy everything just to protect. They were talking about ᓭ𝙹. This was just a joke, right? They weren't serious, were they? They knew what ᓭ𝙹 meant to me, and they asked if it was okay to siege them? This is just a joke, there's no way. 1 week later, Nordic and AS siege ᓭ𝙹's capital, Nordston. I've honestly never felt so betrayed. Nordic had betrayed me before, but this was different. This felt personal. You see, ᓭ𝙹 and Teutonic were so much more than allies. When ᓭ𝙹, Teutonic, and ᓭ𝙹 formed the SDO Alliance, we often would stay at each other's nations for a few days at a time to help grind, build, or just hang out. In fact, I was already in Nordston when it was sieged. I still cared about ᓭ𝙹, but it was much farther away, and our tunnel was destroyed, so I often went to ᓭ𝙹 instead. Also, most of the original ᓭ𝙹 members stopped playing or were banned, so they weren't the same friends I had made a year ago. I was still allies of ᓭ𝙹, but we weren't as close as we once were, and it just felt like a normal alliance. ᓭ𝙹 and Teutonic were the exact opposite though. We were closer than ever, and we'd hang out basically every day. We even talked about merging into one nation on multiple occasions, but can never think of a cool enough name. So when Nordic sieged ᓭ𝙹, it felt like they sieged me too. After everything we did together, the wars we fought side by side for months, the nations we conquered, they just left me with a knife in my back. My hot-headedness started to seep through again. I made peace with Thracia and Rome. I released occupation of their towns. I allied them. We created the third and final coalition, which would later be one of my biggest mistakes. But I didn't care about any of that right now. I just wanted revenge. The Bugles, the last remaining leader of Spain, disbanded his nation and joined us. While he was always our friend, he didn't like that we helped Nordic in sieges, so now that we were against them, he wanted to help, which was great for Teutonic. The new coalition came to defend ᓭ𝙹 against the Nordic aggressors, and for the first time in months, Nordic got destroyed. Their power was gone. For the first time since its creation 1 year ago, Nordic looked weak. Good, they deserved it, but I wanted more. This wasn't enough. For this next siege, we have to go back a few months. ᓭ𝙹 was attempting to conquer all of East Asia, but they wanted more than just occupation. They staged a coup in Japan with the help of Nordic. During the chaos of a Japanese siege, a Nordic PvPer assassinated the leader of Japan and had taken control over the empire. ᓭ𝙹 created a puppet nation in Japan and they tried to assimilate them into their nation, but Japan wasn't having it. This led to a rivalry between Japan and ᓭ𝙹. Japan never had the opportunity to take the initiative and siege ᓭ𝙹, and they were always fighting a defensive war. So when a third coalition formed, Japan saw it as the perfect chance to take out their vengeance on ᓭ𝙹, so they sieged their main fort. This was kind of annoying because I was trying to get ᓭ𝙹 in a coalition, but I understood why Japan did it, and I didn't hold it against them. I helped ᓭ𝙹 because of what was left in the SDO bond, and we won pretty easily, but this still unfortunately meant that ᓭ𝙹 wasn't going to join a coalition anytime soon. Japan and some coalition members were mad at me, but I didn't really care. I knew they needed me, so things went on as they were. Now that that's out of the way, I can go back to what I really wanted. I still had a vendetta against Nordic and AS. Nordic would require more planning, and due to a technicality in our alliance, Teutonic couldn't siege them directly. So I looked towards AS. AS seemed to always somehow be my enemies. Before they fled to America, we had fought them while they were in Carthage in the SCA vs SDO war. And then they were in the second coalition during the Teutonic revival. Even when we were allies, we often would go against each other just like our Roma. And now, after we just allied again, they helped siege my closest ally. To even be able to reach them, Teutonic made a new nation in America, so we could use it as a base. We spent a week building and grinding for hours every day. My friends Neb, Luva, and I had built a base strong enough to siege the largest nation. Then when the time came, we brought the rest of the coalition over and sieged the capital. Nordic came to defend our ally, but we honestly destroyed them. Cannoneer, a former Nordic player who joined Teutonic, absolutely melted through the American fort. This, combined with Teutonic and ᓭ𝙹's PvP skill, along with the rest of the coalition's knowledge on ships and vehicles, created a deadly team that Nordic and AS just couldn't keep up with. When the fort fell, Teutonic had control over all of North America. AS tried to revolt a few weeks later, but it didn't go well for them, and they eventually surrendered, and many of their leaders got banned. This led to AS slowly dying out, and the remaining players moved to Western Africa to create ᓭ𝙹. After the siege, OE split up. A few of the older OE players moved in with us because they didn't like OE's alignment with Nordic. I was glad to be able to fight alongside my old oceanic friends again. ᓭ𝙹, with the help of the coalition, set siege on Oasis, a fort that used to be in Teutonic but recently joined Nordic because the mayor didn't like us allying ᓭ𝙹. This should be an easy siege for the coalition. We had just destroyed a fort much better and more important than this one, so I wasn't even planning on going. I still had some loyalty towards this town, and its mayor too, but a new nation rose in Central Africa. Another Italian nation with dozens of new recruits to support the Nordic cause. These recruits would be problematic for the coalition, and showed that Nordic wasn't going down so easily. So I came to help. We kept trying to push into Oasis but were stopped at every turn, ending in defender victory. Even though we lost, I was kinda happy. I was proud of what the former Teutonic player had done to stand up against us, when AS failed to do so. But with this new momentum, Nordic sieged 2 small ᓭ𝙹 towns. These towns are pretty weak too, but defensive sieges are still easier to win. We didn't have too many problems defending this, and stopped Nordic and their new recruits at both sieges. This would put us in a standstill though. Not a lot happened for a few months because neither side could seem to win an offensive siege. We were both evenly matched, until a faction of ᓭ𝙹 had left and created a new nation called Greater Romania. They revolted against their overlord with the help of the Nordic allies, and they were winning. The coalition came to aid ᓭ𝙹, and it was a close fight. The closest fight in months. In the last hour of the siege, the coalition came out ahead. The standstill was finally broken, and ᓭ𝙹 quickly used this moment to siege the capital of ᓭ𝙹. The Nordic allies obviously came to defend them, and our victory would be short-lived. They were pushing us out of ᓭ𝙹, and it was a repeat of Oasis. But we pulled new recruits from all over the world, and non-stop bombed their fort. Every player in the coalition all worked together as one. The coalition acted like a well-oiled machine. Even though the siege was barely prepared, we had came out ahead, and ᓭ𝙹 was now occupied by ᓭ𝙹. A few weeks have passed, and Rome, one of the nations in the coalition, sieges a small nation in southern Africa. Unfortunately, this nation was a vassal of Teutonic, a nation I swore to protect. This was mostly due to miscommunication, but Rome wouldn't stop the siege, which obviously made me pretty mad. I've always had a bad relationship with Rome. Ever since they sieged me last year, I've kinda held a grudge, and some of their players could be toxic at times. When we created the third coalition, I knew Rome would be in it, but I still would have rather not worked with them. And I didn't officially ally with them until they helped us siege AS. This meant just a small tear could destroy our alliance, and sieging my friends was a pretty big tear. This ended our alliance, and we became enemies again. They later sieged another nation I was friendly with, so any chances of us allying again was gone. Shortly after these sieges, Rome left the coalition and joined the Nordic allies. The Nordic allies also officially became the Imperial Alliance, now consisting of Nordic, the Sahara Syndicate, which is basically just a rebranding of ᓭ𝙹, Rome, OE, the Italian Empire, and a new nation called Russia. Now that Rome had abandoned the coalition, we had another target. This led to the coalition planning a siege on the biggest Roman fort. By this point, you might be getting pretty bored hearing about the constant same siege happening at every turn, just in different locations. And that's how I'm starting to feel too, so I'll keep this short. We won. The siege was hard fought, and Italian recruits were a big problem, but we destroyed the fort. Rome was now occupied going into the new year. One day, I accidentally find a method to create hundreds of gold blocks, a duping method. I was feeling reckless from all these boring sieges, and I decided to continue doing it for fun. While Teutonic was respected for our skill in sieges, we had always been a pretty poor nation, so it felt nice. I didn't want to use the money too much, so Nebadai designed and built a new bunker of gold blocks used everywhere. He wondered where I got the gold, but I never told him. I couldn't let anyone else get in trouble for my stupidity. It wasn't a lot anyway, most nations still had more money. After a few weeks of doing this on and off, I was feeling guilty, and I eventually stopped duping. Altogether, I made around 150k in gold blocks, but I never used it, so no one found out. So what's left to do? We've pretty much sieged every Nordic ally and won. Was it finally time to attempt to conquer the undefeated fort? The capital of a nation that had unlimited power? The nation has spread fear throughout the server for years now. The group of players who had always dominated since joining 2 years ago. Yes, it was. After almost a year of wiping out each Nordic ally, one by one, I'm finally going to get my revenge. I remember why I'm doing this. I'm brought back to the desert siege that started this all, fighting side by side of friends and enemies, against a nation I now hated, my old friends. They betrayed me. They deserve this. But can we really win? It seems impossible. After only a few hours of fighting, they surrendered. So that was it? That's my revenge? That's all it took? Something doesn't feel right. Why was I so determined to destroy this already dying nation? Wasn't it supposed to make me feel better? Then why do I just feel empty? I didn't despise Nordic like I thought I did. I pitied them. Was I really this blind to not see what I was doing? Yeah, Nordic was once great, but now is just a tired old man. No, an old friend, pleading for mercy. This wasn't right. I have to make it up to them. So I bring up the idea of peace to the rest of the coalition. We can show mercy, just like I tried last year to the second coalition. But just like last year, they weren't having it. And the full weight of my actions come down on me. I realized what I had done. I was so focused on destroying Nordic that I was blindsided by the monster I was creating. I had destroyed one evil regime only for a worse one to take its place. I heard trustworthy rumors that multiple high-ranking Thracian leaders wanted to siege my town, Kiev. I had enough. It was looking like an exact repeat of what Nordic did to me last year once I showed a fraction of weakness. Even SCA did the same thing to me 2 years ago. I wasn't going to let it happen again, but I didn't know what to do about it. It was too late now. The coalition was too far gone. I could have easily joined the Imperial Alliance and balanced the sides again like I did last time, but that wouldn't accomplish anything. This would just be a never-ending cycle of the same two mega alliances fighting each other for eternity. This is what my need for vengeance has led to. I have to fix this. But how? I reluctantly ignored these thoughts for now, and focused on something else that I was better at. I talked about this last video, but I tried to hunt hunters, the players that kill the innocent for an easy reward. I was kind of slacking on this though. However, when a group of Roman PvPers had gone around killing innocent players from all over Europe, including some in my own nation, I knew I had to stand up to them. If they wanted a fight, then I'd give it to them. I sat outside their fort for hours waiting to be jumped. Sometimes it was only one player, sometimes it was more. I'd set up traps in case I was outnumbered, and one of these traps killed the best Roman PvPer, Alnh. Because of this, he challenged me to a duel. I knew how good he was, but I never backed down from a fight. We gathered outside the Roman fort, and the spectating Romans lined up to watch the duel. The nerves started to kick in. I hadn't lost a fair duel yet, even against players better than me. But this time I wasn't sure I'd come out alive. After 2 years, will I finally lose a duel? He was a new player, but his reputation was rising fast, and he came from a server with much better players. I'll never turn my back on a duel though, no matter the player. Otherwise, how could I call myself a PvPer? I lost. I played my best, but he just played better. It wasn't a total loss though. I had gained Alhn's respect, and while we were still enemies, we became friends after this duel. So next time you're facing off against your enemy, compliment their shoes or something, and who knows, maybe it'll be the spark that ignites a wonderful friendship. Alright, let's rewind a bit. At the beginning of February, I made an announcement about an event I would be hosting in Kiev. The event would include 2 separate tournaments with extravagant prizes. There hadn't been a tournament on this server like this, well, ever, so it was exciting, and I wanted to do it right. The event wasn't planned until the end of March, but I made the announcement in early February so people wouldn't plan on any sieges that weekend. And I would also remind everyone about the event every so often over the next month. I trusted the community to not fight each other, just this one day. As the event gets closer, I start to realize I don't have the cash reward ready. I was too focused on everything else, and I procrastinated. I duped again. I told myself it was okay this time. None of this goal was for me anyway. It was for the better of the server. But I still felt bad, and I knew I was wrong. The week of the event has finally come, and I have everything ready. I was excited to bring something new and fresh to the community. The night before the event, I go to bed ready for a fun day tomorrow. A day that will be remembered. A day everybody can enjoy. But when I wake up, I see it. The siege. It's no ordinary siege either. It's a siege right on my doorstep. A town that was just a few hundred blocks away from Kiev was sieged by Rome. This meant that not only was most of the server distracted by the siege, but Kiev was also in the siege zone. PvP would be enabled at Kiev, so players wouldn't want to come because others could easily ruin it by killing everyone. Even if they wanted to come, a lot of the players physically couldn't unless they were participants in the siege. Otherwise, the server would give them siege sickness, which prevents players from entering a siege. I don't know what I expected. Did I really think the Coalition or Imperial Alliance would ever stop fighting? Every single weekend? This war that I helped start had been going on for a year now, with almost the exact same nations on both sides. This war has to end. This isn't healthy for the server. Anytime anyone tries to do something fun, it's destroyed by these alliances that just can't seem to let go. The Coalition and Imperial Alliance need to split up. I didn't know what to do before, but I knew what I had to do now. I rescheduled the event to a later time, a time that would have sieges disabled because I couldn't trust these mega alliances to keep their word. This time, it wouldn't be an ordinary event. It would be the first step to putting an end to these destructive alliances. I want to blow everyone up. I have 3 stacks of Wither Skulls, 3 dubs of TNT, and I'll blow up Kiev and everyone in it. I rigged my home with thousands of explosives. My nation had been at the center of every mega alliance on the server, so it couldn't exist anymore, especially with my plan for a new future. During the end of the event, I made a speech at the award ceremony to gather all the players in one place. For years, I died to protect this nation. Now I would give up everything to destroy it. I would take out my anger and frustration to make them feel how I feel. I would kill anyone who stood in my way. During the chaos, I made a promise to the whole server. I will watch both these alliances crumble to dust, whatever the cost. Luckily, I wasn't alone. I had friends from Teutonic, and we moved to Antarctica, where we created a new nation called the Elite Penguin Force. A safe place that will allow us to plan out how we complete our goal. When I blew up Teutonic, I blew up all the dupe gold as well. Even if the gold was never used, I still wanted it gone. I would never dupe again. But if we wanted to take down the mega alliances, then we'd need a lot of money. More money than we ever had at Teutonic. But how could we get it? We aren't good merchants or ship designers. We don't have the patience to mine all day or farm rare items. We're just PvPers. What could that do? It's not like people would hire us to fight for them. Oh wait. Welcome to the very first CCNet mercenaries. We had the credibility from Teutonic, so we knew people would want us. They'd probably spend a few couple thousand to buy us a siege. We wanted to fight anyway, so this was a win-win. Basically free money. It also masked our true motive with EPF, giving us time to prepare. Our first siege was in Russia. We were hired by Japan to help siege the Russian capital for 30k, and wow, that's a lot. I wasn't expecting that much this early. We came to help and we dominated. For months, Japan and Russia had been having back and forth sieges, and we just won it. It was a great first siege, and it was obvious that hiring us was important. We helped Japan occupy Russia, something they had been trying to do for a while now. More and more people wanted to join EPF, and some who didn't have a lot of experience, so we'd help train them to be the best they can. 2 weeks later, both Russia and Japan went to hire us for a siege again. Russia was going to revolt at the same town we just helped Japan conquer. Since both sides wanted us, we set up an auction and get the most money we can. Maybe we can get 40k this time. Both nations start the bidding. Okay, 30k again. Good start. Oh, now it's 40k. Okay, already met the goal. Whoa, 50k? Now 55. I mean 60 or 65. Slow down, dude. What? Huh? Are you okay? Okay, I'm done. So yeah, that happened. We had just made more money than I ever had at any single time. More money than I ever made from duping, just to do something that we pretty much would have done for free. We were on Russia's side now, so we better win. It would be embarrassing if we got paid this much and didn't even free their town. Alnh and his friends left Rome and created their own nation and joined the coalition. Normally I wouldn't care, and I was glad my friend made his own nation, but this was sort of a bad time. The only person that could really compete against EPF in terms of raw PvP was him. He had been Russia's best player in the siege earlier, and the coalition was currently stronger than the alliance. So if the alliance's best PvPer was gone, they weren't looking too good. We'd have to super try hard this siege if we wanted to win. Luckily though, it was a revolt, which are almost always easier to win. We fought for a few hours and I went full sweat mode, getting a record amount of kills for me in such a short period of time. Before nightfall, it looked like the coalition was giving up. Russia used this moment to siege a Japanese town 100 blocks away. At first, I wasn't gonna go because we were hired for this siege, not that one. And it might not be fair to Japan, but I feel bad for Russia spending 200k for us to fight just a few hours. I also was pretty bored fighting the air, so I decided to go. Thankfully I did too, because I'm getting an insane amount of kills and already maxed out the points we could get in just the first day. But the next day, the coalition starts abusing our main weakness: tanks. With Alnh now in the coalition, we couldn't dominate the PvP scene as much as we liked. And now that we were getting destroyed by tanks, we were losing our lead, until eventually the defenders maxed out their points. They completely flipped the battle in less than a day, and they came out victorious. I wasn't too disappointed in myself though. This is by far my best siege I've had in terms of kills, and we still won the siege we were hired for, but it did still hurt losing. We were now 200k richer, and we also profited from the siege in terms of gear too, so a pretty big win for EPF overall. But it was also a pretty big loss for everyone else. They were fighting back and forth in East Asia, and only we profited from it. We were later hired for some other stuff too, like siege regions, bounty kills, or other sieges, but I don't want to bore you because it was starting to bore us. One week we'd fight at one place against a coalition and win. The next week we'd fight somewhere else against the alliance and win. After a while, most nations came together to sign a treaty to never hire us again. I didn't really care though. Not only was I getting bored, but it wouldn't matter unless every nation chose to follow this. We were still getting hired by nations that didn't sign a treaty, and some nations left the treaty because of this. EPF was bored. It was time we started our own fights, and took a more direct approach to taking down these mega alliances. I got together with Alnh, and we decided that we'd attempt to take on the whole server. We'd fight both the coalition and the alliance, and finally create the third side that the server needed. Hopefully this would show people that can be as many sides as they want, and they don't have to follow one of the two already existing ones. Unfortunately, the plan never made it that far. We sieged Rome, and it wasn't going bad, but we were bored. Rome knew our weakness. They could choose not to fight and only stick to tanks. and we'd be so bored that we would just leave, and it worked. I stopped playing CCNet after the siege, and decided I'd come back later when I had the motivation. I didn't know that I wouldn't be coming back though. 3 months after my final siege, I was finally caught for my duping. While it had been almost a year since I last duped, it was still found by an admin due to ᓭ𝙹 finding the same dupe. I was banned. Permanently. And that's where this story ends. My promise to destroy the Mega Alliances won't be fulfilled, and my vision for a better server won't ever happen. Oh wait, did I forget to unblur that? Yeah, my bad. I'm not done yet. I still have a promise to fulfill. I need to fix this mess that I started and end this stupid two-sided war. It won't be easy, and I'll need help, but it will happen. Both the Coalition and the Alliance will dissolve. So help me, join me, and let's fix the server. I know we can.